sunlight begins to fade now, and I feel like I'm losing time, but I don't know how I'm here. The sunlight has turned to gray, and I feel like I'm losing love again. I don't know how I'm here. I could feel your heartbeat. I could feel it somewhere you're looking down. I could feel your heartbeat. I could feel it somewhere you're looking down. 'Cause it's you I'm loving, and it's you that I wanna breathe. And it's you I'm loving, and it's you that I wanna need.
Hello ladies, hello gentlemen, welcome to Simracersworld TV for the SRW GT Pro Series. It is the opening round, and it is so even though it says Media Day, and I'll get that fixed immediately. But it is the opening round here from Sebring, and I am joined by Jack Werrell for a day in the sun, with bumps, straights, with fast speeds indeed, and high risks, high rewards at this legendary place in Florida. Jack, are we excited or what?
Oh, I'm so excited. First of all, hello everybody. But wow, we're in for an amazing night. If you didn't catch the media day just 1 week ago, please do go back and look at it. Obviously, once the proceedings of tonight have ended, but wow, that was probably one of the best little snippets of what you've got to look forward to over this 10-round season, and we're only at round 1. So we've got a packed season ahead of us, and I just can't wait to get it underway.
I really have to say it's the same for me, and it's a big one coming up, and I think it's such a good place to start proceedings indeed. Here, Sebring, really a great place. I've had the pleasure of racing the 12 hours of Sebring here and iRacing myself, and indeed a great challenge, but also once you get into the groove, really a nice track. Plenty of overtaking opportunities. Legendary Christensen corner for me, that was named in 2016 after, well, you all know, 9-time Le Mans winner, the Great Dane indeed, Tom Christensen. So let's get on with it, shall we? With some pictures from what is indeed qualifying session having been underway for a bit indeed. Let's see, we have some drivers on track. And expecting times in just around the 156s, 157s, I would believe. Perhaps even slower. Of course, qualifying is really swift, and the level here in the GT Pro Series is certainly no joke at all. And there we have it. TV pictures indeed. And right now, watching Martin van Loosenoord. And I'm just gonna hop on board with the man for a short moment. You might see all the cars turn white. Actually, you will see all the cars turn white. But I just need to give it a refresh, because right now we're seeing standard paints, which I don't believe it's supposed to. That looks more like a G-Drive driver suit to me as well. But indeed, Jack, you mentioned the media day 1 week ago from now at Lime Rock Park, and that turned out to be something pretty out of the ordinary, I want to say. It was something a little bit different than what you usually see. I mean, in terms of pace, in terms of action, we saw it, but it wasn't really the sort of action you always want to see at this level of racing, was it?
It was quite what we were looking for, but I'm sure everybody who's out tonight, well, there you go, there's a little bit of action for you already on board with the Optilicht. just going down in towards turn 2, you just had a little Ferrari parked off to the right hand side, and that's something that I guess it's good to see, not only because they've gone off circuit, but we've already got people making those mistakes, which does show that they're really pushing for those extra couple of tenths, and over a long circuit like this it can really add up, and I've got a feeling we're going to be in for a very, very close evening of racing.
There it is. And Jack Werrell, the lovely Jack Werrell, now coming through with you. Finally, we had a bit of problems. I'm sorry. I think it was on the end of my internet. Oh, that wasn't Jack's end. I was just about to take the blame, Jack, but that's a very stand-up move of you. There. But while we're getting settled here, I'm really looking forward to this one. I just really Sebring. I mentioned it before. I think it's the perfect place to head off, and it's really a demanding track, and it's a hard place to set up the car for because it's full of compromises. You'll find every type of corner, basically from tight hairpins to really speedy sections where you need downforce. You have a really long straight needing high top speed indeed. So it's very much a compromise needed here, and anyone not really being up to speed on the setup game are going to be found out here as someone goes wide on what I think is the exit of Le Mans. And that was the aforementioned Joop de Ligt, who we was riding with before. And current pole sitter, by the way, as you can see, Martin van Loosenaert.
I think we've just got to appreciate the times that people are starting to post. Like I say, provisional pole sitter Martin van Loosenaert with a 1 minute 54.69, so very, very quick. He is only around about 300ths quicker than his G-Drive teammate. I say that, but his G-Drive teammate has gone and topped him with provisional pole position. That's Bram van Putten with a 1 minute 54.62. That's 700ths quicker than Martin van Loosenaert. Joop de Ligt in third at the moment with a 1 minute 54.91. Scott Andrews, the last of the drivers in the 54 margin. He's done a 1 minute 54.94. And then we slowly start to work our way through the 55s into the 56s, and it pretty much follows that pattern all the way down the order.
So very competitive times all the way through the field, platinum and gold drivers alike. And Joop de Ligt at the spicy end of affairs here already. He's looking good. Bram van Putten now having bested Martin van Loosenaert at the top of affairs. Indeed looking strong. Niklas Last, who was gold rated on the media day, has promptly received a license upgrade after that performance. He looked really strong indeed. And the marshals, the stewarding team, said, you know what, we're going to move you up. It's going to be unfair for you to compete in the gold class, and you are indeed platinum material. And here he is, Niklas Last in his 911 RSR. These GTE cars are some of the most fiercely competitive machines that you'll find around. And with technology that is honed and been honed over many years for each of these respective makers of automobiles, respect some really, or you expect some really, and you have to respect as well, but you do expect some really refined machinery indeed. And knowing that the machinery is built to last for a much longer time than they were going to be running today, I don't think we're going to be seeing blown engines a la the Radical at the Bell Car race at Daytona. But it's going to be good indeed here. Niklas Last rounding Sunset Corner, which is, he clips the grass, and that is perhaps the fastest thing to do, but it's also bound to be with great risk that you do so. And it's a corner alongside turn 1 here, and Christensen, plus 4 and 5. This entire opening section is always tricky. And I say at least for the drivers here, it's not a multi-class race here, so it's a little bit easier on traffic, and they're not going to be harrowed to the same degree, although there will be a lot of close battling, given that it's practically, I say it's a 90-minute race, but in the end it's going to be close to a sprint race. Isn't that right, Jack?
Yeah, I think it is for everybody, because when you look at the true potential of these cars, yes, a fuel tank can only last about an hour, but I'm saying that like that's not a long time. It really is. When we're talking about it and we're watching, it doesn't seem that long, but when you're in the car, it can either go one of two ways, very quickly or very slowly. And I think with the battling tonight, it will probably end up going quite quickly if you're the car chasing, but if you're the car defending, it will be the longest 90 minutes of your life, because you've got to go in for that fuel stop, and with the most recent tyre update, we were talking this through with Mr. Ian Roots, in theory, Mr. Simracersworld. He was saying that a lot of the drivers won't be taking tyres, which I think is probably the right call, because you can double stint tyres in these cars, as far as I'm aware, and then you can go for that extra little bit of strategy gain. And I think that's going to be something we're going to look out for as well, because the race might not necessarily be won out on circuit; it might be won in the pit lane.
That's a really good point indeed, because that tire change is at least 20 seconds, and it's really gonna be hard to make amends for that, especially if a driver is really keen on trying to conserve the rubber from the off, because there's a big difference to be made. And you don't necessarily go a lot slower if you really try to conserve. It's about just being that little bit slower on corner entrance, just leaning a little bit less, and absolute minimum of input, and you can actually be surprised of just how much you can save the tires up. So I think it's really a nice dynamic, and I gotta say that the latest tire model, it's been under a lot of critique, but I do feel like it's, especially with these GT cars, it's added so much worth and so much the driving experience that's also been improved. Plus the tires are now a little bit better in terms of wear than the V6 tires. So I think all in all, it's a really great work. And taking into consideration just how detailed it is with these tire models in iRacing, that it isn't just made on, data. So of course it's made on data, but they've actually built the tire in the game, basically from what they say is a molecular level up. I don't know how that would work. I'm in no way informed enough to talk about that in any ways. I just find it kind of mind-blowing that they've done that.
Yeah, they definitely know what they're doing, because they've helped us produce, or hopefully, one of the closest racing series around. But as you can see, that's the end of the qualifying session. It's gone immensely quickly. They've only had 20 minutes out on circuit ahead of a 90-minute race, so I think we've got plenty to look forward to. Bram van Putten on provisional pole. His teammate at the moment, Martin van Loosnoord, is still out on circuit. He's just about to come around the final sector, so it'll be good to see whereabouts he can place his car, whether he can get a last-minute improvement. Then in provisional third at the moment is still Scott Andrews with that 1 minute 54.75, and he's no longer out on circuit, so I don't think we'll see an improvement from him. Job de Ligt and Johnny Verhoef are all in the pits. The next car to challenge for a position will be Ferris Stanley for HM Engineering. He's coming around the final corner now, currently in provisional P6, P1 in class. Can he improve upon his 1 minute 55.19 set on the lap prior he crosses the line now? And I don't think he will get it done. He stopped just before the line. Martin van Loosnoord crosses the line as well and cannot improve upon his time. We've got lots of chopping and changing a little further down the order. That's Dries Muji promoting himself up through the order. He is now 21st overall and 14th in class. That lap he's just set was 1 minute 56.30. So it doesn't seem like the positions are quite yet settled, with the closing stages of the session still going on.
That's indeed right. We still have Pim Bao setting a lap. We do. Oh, even with the final bit of cars. And this is a counting lap. Oh, and then at the exit of... Was that Sunset even? I think that is, but it's a...
final corner.
Yeah, it is the final corner, Sunset, and he gets that lap ruined indeed. It did look well for Pim Bao, but it's... as far as I can see, it is going to be... Mr. Van Putten, Bram van Putten on pole position in front of Martin van Loosnoord, Scott D. Andrews, Job de Ligt, and Johnny Verhoef. And that's going to be your top 5 indeed for this race. As in not too long, we're going to have the grid order for you. As we're just awaiting intense waving of that checker flag there. He must have some proper muscles in his arms, I'm thinking. He's been waving there for some time already. But okay, though, he does get a lot of work out as well, doesn't he? On all due seriousness, I'm really excited for this to get going. The first race of a season that promises a lot of great stuff. And of course, brought to you in cooperation with our partners. That is Porsche Sport, that is Strasse, that is Abruzzi, and that is Dynamics. And simply, without the help of those wonderful people, this wouldn't be possible. So thanks where thanks are due, and we have the grid ready for you. So here it is on display. Bram van Putten on pole position in front of Martin van Loosnoord, and it's a G-Drive 1, 2, 3 with Scott D. Andrews there. Job de Ligt for Manatee Racing 4th. Johnny Verhoef Manatee then 4th and 5th, so a bit of chunking up in there together. Ferris Stanley 6th, Nicholas Last there 7th, Sam Bentham in 8th with Keanu Borgagnon, the Flemish Sim Sports driver 9th, Mario Uri for Sim Racing Academy 10th. We've got Daniel Handover 11th, Diego Hames in 12th place. Then, that was not a lot of movement there, was it? Martin van Røvik and Pim Pao there, the next 2 rows, and then Alejandro Torres, Rutger Weinen, Sebastian Hawkins, Neil Cooper, Robin DeVille with Jordan McGlone of Simpact in 20th place, then Dries Moody, Tom Metherell, Sebastian Heberer of the Simracersworld esports team, their gold-rated driver in 23rd, with Mr. Thibault 24th, Nicolas Cotinovis in 25th, we've got Matthias Tem in 26th place, and it's a big old grid here at Sebring with Bart Daleman 27th, Austin Gretorix in 28th. We've got John Barnes in 29th, Ewan Marshall 30th, and Javier Rodriguez, Carl Sharkey, David Fuller, Jeremy Heslos, Jack Ashton, Bet Boland, Paul Gosling, and Adam Delmont in 38th place. And I think this is going to be some of the final positions indeed. Ryan Walker, Kevin Bolland in 40th place with Lee Diemer, Dean Timms, and Cammy E. Sturge rounding off the grid. That was a long one indeed.
It really is 43 cars on a big old circuit as well, so I think we've got lots to look forward to. By the looks of it, we are either going to get a standing start or a full rolling lap. We're going to get one full rolling or one full green flag lap or a warming up lap, and then everybody will be released once they finish that warming up lap for a rolling start. And just look at the size of the grid. I think there was only one driver that didn't set a time in that session, and that was Cammy Sturge at the very back. So it'd be good to see where she can end up throughout the session. Everybody is on the grid now, and the pace car will very shortly start rolling, leading a very, very expensive grid as well.
You don't say so. There is potential for a lot of virtual dollars of virtual damage, I was about to say, in here, but hopefully I think the drivers are going to be experienced enough to know that the first couple of corners here at Sebring, cold tires and all that stuff, is always going to be a little bit dangerous, and they know, I hope at least, that it's a place where you really have to be careful. Let's go on for some shots from the blimp here of the field. It's a nice place for blimp shots as well here at Sebring. It's I feel like almost a little bit British in feel sometimes with the flatness. It seems like a thing for of course you have the odd couple of Brands Hatch and such out there, but there are a couple of like Silverstone that are really flat. This is a circuit that is, at least when you drive it, it has very, very little altitude gain or altitude change, because it's not only gain, it's also of course coming down the hills in the other place. But that also means that your kind of reference points for the track are going to be a little bit different, because it isn't like driving, say, Road Atlanta or so, where you really have, or even Road America, where you also have like kind of these places where the elevation gain makes you able to like aim for a crest or a hilltop or something. You really don't have this kind of thing at Sebring. The hair. I'm sorry, Jack. No,
I see what you mean about the. I see what you mean about the elevation change. Like you said, at Road Atlanta, you've got that downhill braking zone into the final little chicane, and that's where you've got to brake that little bit earlier, and you've slowly got to bring your brake point earlier and earlier. The further you get into the race, yes, your car's getting lighter, but your tyres are going to be wearing out as well. So that will reduce the braking performance as well. But I see what you mean. It is quite a flat circuit. I think the only way that you can find some elevation change around here at Sebring is probably going down the start-finish straight with all those bumps. That's the only sort of major elevation change you really get. But just look at that grid. It's a busy old grid, and we did say that like you said, it's a G Drive P1, 2, and 3, and they're all in the BMWs, and then the Manatee Racing are all in Fords as well. So that's something we can look out for as well. There's lots of Porsches in the mid-pack and a couple of Ferraris in the mid-pack. But it seems like the BMW seem to be quite dominant as well there towards the top end of the order. We've got almost a four-way Ford battle at the very bottom, then a three-way Ferrari battle, and a four-way Ford battle once again. So it's quite interesting to see just how different cars will play to different strengths throughout the season. And obviously we're at Sebring this round, then Monza for round 2, Watkinsglen Motorsport, Imola Silverstone, Suzuka Road Atlanta, Daytona Road Course, and we finally round it off at Spa. So we've got plenty of action to look forward to, and I can't wait for this one to take off.
Well, we're getting very close to it, Jack, and I feel the excitement levels are really beginning to rise here. They're on the back straight. They're on their way towards sunset. It's going to be the easiest time through sunset, that's for sure, because that corner is hot. And look at this glorious shot indeed. The heat emming from the engines, and it makes for some spectacular viewing indeed. It's a grand field, it's a grand setting, it's a grand track, and it's a grand series indeed. It's the Simracersworld GT Pro Series. It's round 1, and it's just about to head off with the leading G-Drive cars. The safety car is pitting in right over the cones, but at least it doesn't clip the pit wall. And now they're waiting for the green flag. And there it is. They're off. And hopefully everyone will get through safely onto the straight. Never mind into turn 1. Let's see, here they come.
Putton still leading the way from his G-Drive teammate. That's Martin van Loosnod in second place. Scott Andrews still in third. No major incidents. It looks like a couple of guys hit the grass at turn 1, but everybody's worked their way through. This is great to see. Everybody's still running. Bit of door-to-door contact a little further back, but everybody's still going. Nobody going backwards. Still got Bram van Putten leading the way from Martin van Loosnod. Scott Andrews got the lead.
Oh, Neil Cooper!
Off that very close for the Fury Sim Sport driver of Neil Cooper. Well spotted. That's it. For a little bumble across the grass, but it looks like he got away with it without any damage at all. Maybe a bit of floor damage as he hit a curb. But everybody's still going, really starting to bunch up into the hairpin. A couple of locked brakes, but it looks like everybody's getting through. This is really, really close racing.
It's incredible stuff that we've seen everyone able to react to Neil Cooper coming off the track and back onto it, because that was pretty impressive indeed. We've had Bud Boland off the track as well, but I'm just going to show you this in the replay real quick here. Neil Cooper on the right-hand side doesn't really have the space to go in. I don't know if he gets a little tough, but that curb can really offset the car, and it does indeed. He does a superb job of not coming further onto the track. The drivers from behind indeed doing a superb job of making sure they don't hit him. Check up with the leaders. Still Bram van Putten in front of Martin van Loosnod and Scott G. Andrews. Those three are trying to put a little bit of time into the Manatee Ford GTs. And it's actually looking pretty good for him there. Ferris Stanley in 6th place for HM Engineering. Top running Ferrari at the moment here. And then Bentham and the top running Gold drivers as well here. Pretty far up the order. That is nicely done. And then we got Mario Jury, Pimpao, and Daniel Handover. And that completes your top 10 here as they end and round off lap 1. And that was, someone's a little bit wide at the exit of turn 1, and that is a dangerous place to do so here at Sam Bentham. And let's have a look at it. And by the way, welcome everyone watching. It's so nice to see you all. And I do hope, we do hope, both Jack and I'm pretty sure hope that you are indeed enjoying the show. Sam Bentham, who's now in 8th place. And Jack, what do you make of that start overall?
It was great to see that it was nice and clean. Everybody working their way through turn 1 and turn 2, which is sort of the major points where everybody tends to collect up together. And like I said, that rejoin from Neil Cooper, he did a great job of keeping it under control and not crossing across the circuit. And like what Ian Root said in the YouTube chat, everybody checked up very nicely. Nobody collected the back of him, but it looks like we haven't had any main dramas. We saw a couple of guys go off track a little earlier on. That was Austin Greatorex, Javier Garcia Rodriguez, and Neil Cooper, but it looks like they've still carried on as usual. The closest cars on circuit at the moment are Rutger Weinen and Martin van Rijwijk. So those two are very, very close. Well, I say that, but look at the trade. Look at the trade going onto the back straight. Everybody's nose to tail. So the Demon Tweaks car at the moment leading the way. That's Daniel Handover. Here's the view aboard the number 69 Manatee Racing 4G BMW going into sunset. Everybody's closing up on the brakes. Everybody taking different lines. He's having a peek up the inside. Still no contact. Great driving from the pair of them. Both of them giving each other plenty of room. Somebody's going into the pits. I'm not sure who that was. That was Sam Bentham.
Sam Bentham.
I'm not sure he had damage, but whether this is something that he's doing that we don't know, that could be a bit of strategy play. We said it at the start.
Javier Rodriguez, I'm afraid. Yeah, if we just stop. Someone's getting past constantly right now, and I would just I'm sorry. If I'm a little bit off at the moment, it's still because this SDK software is still relatively new to me. I'm doing my absolute best to make it a pleasant experience of view along. So bear with me if there's a moment or two of something that just looks a little bit off. Anyways, Javi Rodriguez there with a bit of a spinner, and I do think I detected some front end damage as well. No, that's just the livery with a black bonnet. And let's go back to that big train we saw before. Oh, it's just a turn. That's even bigger. That's like a snake like I've never seen it before. Here's Martin van Rooijvik of Simpact Racing, and he's just about got clear of it. He's now in 10th place. He's at a good start, although he's climbed 3 positions overall here. Daniel Handover, though, at the next level of the worm, and or the snake, if you will, and it goes on for a long time still. Very, very, very close racing here.
Everybody keeping it nice and clean as well, which I think is the key point. By the looks of it, everybody's within about half a second of each other. Still nose to tail, no major incidents as of yet, which is great to see. And just look at that, everybody taking pretty much exactly the same line, following the wheel tracks of the car ahead. You can hear the rumble of the rumble strips, funnily enough, going on to the final corner. So everybody making use of every inch of circuit available to them, going down the back straight in towards Sunset. Look at that. It's almost like we're back on the formation lap. Everybody nose to tail, headlights turn into roofs, turn back to headlights again. Going under the bridge at the final corner. Lots of different lines can be taken through there, whether it's you take a wide entry and cut back in to see whether you can get the momentum onto the straight and the acceleration out of the corner, or you take a narrow line and take the wider exit. It's all up for interpretation. Everybody, once again, using every inch of circuit. As you can see, the wall dips in there going into turn 1, opening the corner up as much as possible. And I think turn 1's probably one of the hardest corners on the circuit, followed by Sunset. That's Seb Hawkins. No, it's not. That's Christensen. That's Keanu Bourguignon.
Oh,
that
no.
was sideways in the circuit. I'm not sure what happened there. We'll have to have a look back, but it looked like he lost it on the brakes. I don't think he was helped. We'll have a look on the replay going in. He snagged the brake, and he held the brakes as much as he could, but rolled in somebody's line. 2-wheel moment for Seb Hawkins. It looks like everybody's got it back underway. And
I think, sorry Jack, but somewhere else, Dean Timms here in the year on Racing 46 Ferrari has had a spinner as well. And he manages to keep it okay, I think. Yeah, he does indeed. I'm sorry about the cameras. I'm doing my best to find the angles that are getting just a little bit closer, but they all seem to be pretty far away from me, and I haven't really fiddled around for them, so that's probably a good lesson to me about checking out some camera packs before the net broadcast and just making sure that they are absolutely on point, because it's not like I don't agree. I think they're far away as well. I just cannot really do that much about that very aspect of it at this moment. We're just gonna have to go and settle at the one that's getting the closest shots, but it seems it's a little tough. Let's just move on. So at the top of affairs, still Bram van Putten, still Martin van Loosenhout, still Scott D. Andrews, followed by a Manatee Racing duo of Joop de Ligt and Johnny Verhoef, but they've managed to build a little bit of an advantage. Wouldn't expect there to be much infighting between the top running G-Drive cars there, and neither there is, so no real surprises here. This four-way battle still hot. It's Daniel Handover who's on the tail of the Simpact 911. And he's having a look, but no more than that into turn 1, but he's very close and looking to have a good exit on Martin van Rooijvik. I'm sorry, Jack, I think you're a little bit low. I just turned you up to max level on my end, so
I think that might have fixed it. We'll have a look now.
Yeah.
That's it. It's BMW leading Porsche leading Ferrari. This is a great little four-way battle that we've got going down the second of the longer straights into the hairpin, onto the brakes. Nice and hard, the Ferrari at the tail end of the order. That's Alejandro Garcia de la Mata Torres. That name's going to appear quite a lot during the night. But he's slightly dropping off the back. It looked like he outbraked himself a little bit and compromised his entry into the hairpin at the end of the straight. So the leading trio slowly starting to disappear as well, but Bram van Putten, Martin van Loosenhout and Scott Andrews have really built up that gap. We're expecting to see Hasse from Manatee Racing. Scott Andrews is in a world of his own at the moment. So the Australian, surrounded by Dutchmans in front and behind, then dropping back a little further down the order as well is Ferry Stanley. He's lost one position in class so far, and he's in a world of his own as well. So everybody at the front starting to open up, apart from the G-Drive teammates, much like the media day. Closest cars we've got on the circuit at the moment is Tom Methrell from Iraqi Racing, but it looks like he might have compromised his line a little bit there because Seb Herbert has lost a bit of time to him. But everybody's keeping it nice and clean still, and we've got lots of close battles. Look at Martin van Rijwijk and Rutger Wijnen for Manatee Racing, the third of the Manatee Racing cars, nose to tail, as they go on to the 5th lap.
And still relatively few incidents. It's been a very clean run, I think, so far overall, basically. So that's a big positive to take along. And we did mention the level of overall experience in this field really should make up for any sort of difficulty that the world of racing can throw at these drivers. And so it seems to be, because they've been able to keep more or less everything clean here for what is, of course, the most chaotic minutes of a race like this.
So Rutger Wijnen still leading the way for Manatee Racing of this little pack of 5. He's in the BMW M8 GTE, followed by Martin van Rijwijk for Simpact Racing with that beautiful art livery going through the tight and twisty Sector 2. But Daniel Handover is not willing to lose any time, because if you look just behind him is Alejandro Torres for Zenith Esports, there to pick up the pieces. He will have the best view of this battle, and it's almost turning into 2 duos, because the front 2 are starting to battle each other a little harder. While we ride on board with Alejandro Torres, you can see how close he's really getting onto the tail end of Daniel Handover. So everybody getting nice and close, but they all seem to gain a little bit at various different points of the circuit and lose different bits at various points of the circuit. So you can see which sectors play into a driver's hands. Alejandro Torres, I think he might have had a slowdown there. He didn't get the best run, but he's now compromised himself. So Diego Hames just behind. So the Flemish Simsports driver very, very quickly catching up onto the tail end of the Spanish driver going in towards Sunset. He has a look around the outside, does Diego Hames. You're going to be very brave to make a move around there, but I don't think he'll get it done this time. Still nose to tail at the front though. There is the the trio of Rutger Wijnen, Martin van Rijwijk and Daniel Handover. Jeremy Hesselton, Tom Methrell swapping positions going around the final corner, so that looks like it's turning into quite a close battle as well.
Yeah, it is, and it's absolutely hammering on there for those 3. It's been split up a little bit, and I think those drivers further down the order are also being pretty pleased with not having to contend with too much traffic here. There's also a battle there further on, 3 cars within a second or so here in front of Sebastian Hawkins. That's Jordan McClone in the second Simpat Porsche, and I think, if I'm not very much mistaken, that is a Flemish Simsports Ferrari in front. That very, very good looking livery as well of Robin DeVille there in the 79 machine. And the train is beginning to fall apart, as you will perhaps expect it to at some point here.
Everybody's still staying nice and close, so we look a little further down the order for P31, P32 overall. Neil Cooper is catching up to Kevin Bolland just ahead, but he's followed by Paul Gosling and David Fuller, the recovering David Fuller, because I noticed on the event viewer that he had a little incident. We've got Austin Greatorex coming into the pits, a couple of drivers with on at least 1 lap down. Lee Deemer, Jack Ashton, Cammy Sturge, Adam Delmont, Sam Bentham, Ryan Walker and Dean Timms and Javier Garcia Rodriguez. And I think Nicholas Last as well. They might have retired actually, because it doesn't look like they are continuing to turn any laps. Austin Greatorex is in the pits, or on the overlay he's saying he's not in the pits, but he's not turning a lap, so I wonder why he stopped.
I'm afraid Niklas Last has had a connection issue. He's reported to us in chat, so that is such a shame, and a big F. Everyone out there, leave him in chat for Niklas Last and his connection, which is such poor luck. That's something where I'm sure he'd build up for a lot of time spent practicing and set up all these details, strategy. There's a lot of stuff that go into a race like this. And it's 2 weeks until the next one, so it's gonna be a bit of stale waiting time for Niklas. Such poor luck indeed here. Still watching Robin DeVille. Still with the Jordan McClone on his tail, and still changing Thibaut up in front. It's 2 Ferraris in front of that Simpac 911. And still as well up ahead, it's a close battle between the second Simpac 911 of Martin van Rooijek. It's Rutger Wijnen and it's... I'm sorry, it's of course Daniel Handover. I was just about to say Alejandro Torres, but he is right behind, not far behind, but still able to clearly see the battle up ahead. So it's, oh, here comes perhaps the move. It's a big old look from Van Rooijek there on Rutger Wijnen, and it was close to indeed. And he's picking up speed on the BMW through the midsection there. It seems both 911s a little bit faster through the corners. But as you said earlier, Jack, the dynamics between the different cars makes it really interesting, because it's not just like they're all alike. They really have different strengths and weaknesses, and it comes to show on different parts of the track, and that really makes for some exciting racing, doesn't it?
It really does. At the end of the day, it comes down to the machinery underneath you and how you control it, because Martin van Rooijek, he is... well, he's one of the lead Porsches at the moment that we've got out on circuit. The only other Porsche ahead of him is the driver of Mario Fiori, and he is in 7th position overall, 2nd in the gold class, chasing down a Ferrari, or the lead Ferrari, the HM Engineering car, piloted by Ferris Stanley. So the top two Porsches are really sort of where the pace is going to be set for everybody else, and you've got to look at what other drivers ahead and see what they're doing as well, just to see how your car will react in different sections of the circuit. You can see Martin van Rooijek compromised his line there, started to wash out towards the exit turn 1. You can really see how much time he's lost to Rutger Wijnen, and Daniel Handover is making the most of that nose to tail of those two. A little bit further down the order, we've got Neil Cooper recovering his way up through the order on the tail of Paul Gosling. That's for P29 and P30 overall. So the Fury Simsport car has just managed to get the move done on the Quantum Racing Ford. So those two getting nice and close. The gap opened up a little bit as well, so I think Paul Gosling might have outbraked himself or made a slight mistake. Kevin Bolland went off track not so long back as well. So lots of drama up and down the order. The next two closest cars are just behind this battle. That's Robin Deville losing out to Jordan McLean. So Team Simpac car working his way around the outside, but the battle isn't over.
Yeah, that battle isn't over. It becomes the inside for the next one, and I think he's gonna have it in the box here, McLean. Indeed, he does. And he is up into 15th place. And a good move indeed. Let's just see if we can catch that one again from an onboard perspective. Here it is, from Robin DeVille's perspective. And you can hear the scream of the flat sixth 911 on his right hand side, as a testament of the fact that he is there. And late braking takes a lot of the curb, keeps it stable, and no chance for a cutback in the end. Good stuff right there.
Great to see that those two were battling away, and I'm sure that won't be the last time we see them swap positions. A little further up through the order is the battle we were just looking at. That's still Daniel Handover very, very close to Martin van Rooijek. Now, I thought they were getting very close. He's alongside by the looks of it on the timing screen. Side by side, Daniel Handover has... Actually, no, it's Martin van Rooijek is leading the way of that trio now. Daniel Handover swapping positions with Rutger Wijnen.
Oh!
Side by side going through turn 1 on the drive towards turn 2. Daniel Handover's got the inside, but he's about half a car length back. Late on the brakes, gets the move done, and inherits what is P9 overall, P6 in class. And this trio...
Sure, Jack seems they're still side by side to me, but just as I say that, they go out of the battle, but it was very close for very long there. Exciting stuff now coming down towards the hairpin, and we're going to see a resend to take back the position. It's not going to happen for now, but they're closer than close here. Look, almost getting the slow exit there of Wijnen in the Manatee Racing BMW. But, and I'm almost getting too excited here about racing it, but it's really good. And it's been really good here for the opening 10 laps of action indeed. We've had a few incidents here and there, I'm afraid, as well, but nothing too serious, I want to say. It was... The last one we had was Kevin Bolland. Let's have a look at it. Oh, he's... Doesn't seem like it's anywhere to be seen, so let's just move along.
can just see Rutgervainen at the moment is the meat in the sandwich. He's trying to hold on to the coattails of Daniel Handover in the Demon Twigs Esports Porsche, but he's got Alejandro Torres just behind him, and to pick up the pieces behind these two is Diego Hames in the Flemish Sim Sports Porsche. But you can just see the extent of how much Martin van der Ewijk was being slowed down. He's already built that gap up to around 1.8 seconds to Daniel Handover, so he's slowly starting to disappear into the distance. On the next cars he will meet are the lead 3 gold drivers of Ferry Stanley, Mario Yuri and Pim Bao. Swapping positions a little further down the order is Sebastian Herberer and Jeremy Hessels. So lots of chopping and changing up and down the order here. They're still side by side going around the final corner. That's Jeremy Hessels on the inside, looking to see whether he can make the move back, but he's going to turn to the outside for turn 1. And you've got to be pretty brave to get it done there, Hasse.
Yeah, it's gonna be looking like you know what? The BMW perhaps not the fastest car in the high-speed corners, and Jeremy Hessels in the Dynamics 88 Ferrari is trying to take advantage of it. He's gonna get squeezed there into Christensen, and it almost goes wrong. And they just about managed to make enough space for one another. Oh, and Jeremy Hessels is having absolutely none of it. And he's really pressing there, and here it goes. And past he is. And let's have another look at that here on board with Jeremy Hessels. Oh, SRW, BMW, that just goes too far off onto the left-hand side. And here it is from the outside, in case you missed what actually happened. Almost picks up too much of that curve, but manages to keep it stable, which is not an easy thing to do. So there was Sepp Herber indeed, who's, I want to say he's lost down on a fair bit of position there. Ooh, that's Keanu Borgignon in the Flemish Sim Sports 911. And Sepp Herber trying to squeeze up the inside. Someone locking up here in Gendebien. And oh, and someone's going slow. Who's that? That's Tom Metherell.
So let's see what happened. I'm actually looking at Seb Herber still
yeah,
at the
I am
moment.
as well. Here is Tom Metherell. He's off track there.
Goes very, very wide. That's quite a tricky corner to get right. Carry too much momentum and you'll hit the curb and bounce over to the gravel. And if you don't go quick enough around there, well, it leaves you vulnerable going into the tight, twisty section that follows. So Tom Metherell now looking to the inside at Sunset. He'll have to be late on the brakes to get it done there. I'm not sure he'll quite get the move done in the Meraki Racing BMW.
Oh, you know
but then
what?
he looks like he gets a better run, gets the cutback. What a great move from Tom Metherell, read the situation perfectly. And the BMW's got the grunt on the straight, so he should just slowly start to build that gap up. But the car behind of Bart Daleman will have the draft wheel right on board to see what happened. It actually looked like.
That's a big slide indeed. And he just made it look like not that much from the other side of it. But very, very well caught there from Bart Daleman. He lost the position instead of losing his race, and in the end, that's always going to be a lot better. Still a lot of close battling there around 10th place, and someone's gone round!
That's Rutgervainen.
Rutgervainen in the hairpin, and they almost pile into the back of him. And we're going to have another look at what exactly happened to Rutger here. Coming down towards the hairpin. It's an easy place to lose it. Oh, we're watching... I don't know why it doesn't... really want to switch on to actually watching Rutgervainen. Oh, there it is. I'm sorry, so yeah. There is Rutgervainen. So it's actually a pretty simple spin. He manages to catch it quickly. He doesn't even do a full pirouette 360 around, and time loss is going to be very, very small in the bigger scheme of things, but it's positions lost at this time of the race that might be more essential to Rutger, who's now in 16th place. He's going to be chasing the Flemish Sim Sports Ferrari there in front. Martin van Rooijbeek now up into 9th. And then in 10th, we have Daniel Handover, of course, still chasing Van Rooijbeek. And in behind, they've put a bit of time into the wonderfully named Alejandro Garcia de la Mata Torres. We have Diego Haynes behind, then Jordan McLone, Marc-Antoine Thibault, Robin Deville there in 15th place, and then the aforementioned Rutgervainen in 16th. That's kind of the upper midfield at the moment. The top 10 still being Martin van Loosenoot, Scott van Putten, I was about to say, Bram van Putten, and Scott D. Andrews, followed by the two Manatee Racing Ford GTs of Joop de Ligt, Johnny Verhoof, and then still Ferris Stanley, Mario Jury, Pimpau, and then Martin van Rooijbeek. Oh, and there's Van Rooijbeek! And that's in Christensen, again! Oh, and he comes back on. It's a little bit risky, but he has to get on at some point. And we're gonna have another look at it. think we can catch a little bit more of this replay indeed. There it is.
Tap the grass.
Tap the grass indeed, Jack. And you know what, he's going to be happy not to slam into the wall at the type of incident, because that happens very, very easily indeed. And it seems there's no real damage to the car, so his race goes on as well. He lost a bit of position there, now behind his teammate. And defending from Marc-Antoine Thibault, the Canadian. Quebec Canadian, I would assume, without saying too much. Now up into 11th place is Diego Haynes, and Jordan McLowan has gained 8 places. And speaking about Marc-Antoine Thibault, who's right there in the Ferrari as well, he's gained 10 places in the first 13 laps of the race. So there's an example of 2 drivers having done very, very well on the opening parts of the race here. Pim Bao, who's now in 8th place, he's gained 6 places as well. So another high rider there in Pim Bao, but also would expect the G-Drive driver to be quick indeed. The number 4 machine, another one of those BMW M8s that, as you mentioned, Jack, earlier on, do seem to do very well here at Sebring.
It looks like we've had an incident for Dean Timms, who was in theory the last of our runners in the year 1 Ferrari. I'll have a look back just to see what happened. We're now looking at Pim Bao.
Yeah.
There we go. Once again, hit the grass. We've seen that before, and it looked like it happened again. It keeps it out of the grass, keeps it out of the wall as well, most importantly. Gets back going again, nice and easy. Pulls away. I think he's just turning laps at this point, but we've still got to remember all of this strategy could still come into place. We've only just ticked past the 25-minute mark of this 90-minute race, so we've still got plenty of the race to go. And here's the closest battle we've got out on circuit. Bart Daleman in the Simracersworld Esports Ferrari has gone into the pits on lap 13. He'll come out on lap 14, and we'll see how long he spends in the pits. But it looks like we're slowly going to start entering the sort of pit range for everybody. Go into the pits, get the fuel now, and just do the long haul all the way back. You can see how much people are pushing, clipping the grass, and well, I've got to say, Murray Walker's definitely improving.
He very much is. To finish first. First you must finish. And it is very true indeed. And a good little reminder of what kind of approach that you need to take. Be it a 24-hour race is, of course, even more important. But even in a 90-minute sprint race, and I say 90-minute sprint race, but an hour and a half is a long time to be in the car with an intensity level like this. And mind you, a lot of these drivers, is not all of them, are going to be on pretty high-end gear, I imagine. They're going to be on direct drive wheels that's going to turn out force very much similar to that of a real racing car, making it quite the exercise. And as I said, when the intensity is this high, when the field is overly really pushing, well, then you can see just what kind of level we're actually looking at here. But a lot of battling in the midfield, not a lot of movement at the head of affairs, and that's pretty interesting, I think.
Just looking at it, it's a very similar sort of drive from the media day for the G-Drive cars. Martin van Leeuwenhoek leading Bram van Putten at the moment, so those two have swapped positions now. So Martin van Leeuwenhoek at the very head of the field. This is Seb Herberer looking to the inside of Keanu Bourguignon. He's got the move done. No, he doesn't. They're still trading places side by side going through turn 1. You've got to be very brave to get around there, but it looks like Keanu Bourguignon has kept the momentum going around the outside, and I don't think the move will present itself going into turn 2. But going into the hairpin, we'll have to stay looking at these guys just to see what they can do.
Yeah, absolutely brilliantly done there. I think very, very well pulled out. I think Jeremy Hessels is having to defend pretty hard as well from that Ford GT behind of Cotignovi. But to Keanu Bourguignon there, defending into the hairpin, but he seemed to have a good run there in his 911, and not even a look from his competitor in that situation. So well dealt with in the end. And just having a look through the field, Adam Delmond, Austin Gretorix, pretty close to one another here in the battle to stay within the top 30 overall. We've got Jack Ashton. Jack Ashton in 31st place, and I'm just wondering, went he into pit stop already? And to
He
me,
hasn't got into the pits, but he has lost 17 positions in class.
so he's gone and had an absolute bummer of the race. And you know who's done that as well? Of course, Sam Benton. He was in the pits.
Dropping down the order with Scott Andrews.
Scott Andrews. Oh, he's lost a bit of time indeed, yeah?
I think it's just my timing screen struggling to keep up with everything, but for me then I saw Martin van Leesnord, Bram van Putten and Scott Andrews, so the lead three G-Drive car dropping down the order. That was very, very close from Jordan McLean, nearly collecting the back of the Flemish Sim Sports car, but the two Team Simpac cars still nose to tail, and I think these two are just going to work together, much like the G-Drive cars at the front of the field.
Yeah, that would be the sensible thing to do indeed. And Marc-Antoine Thibault around a second behind here. Johnny Verhoef now beginning to, as far as I can see at least, catch up to Scott D. Andrews, or he was at least on my, at least even my SDK is timing software is playing games with my, it needs to quit playing games with my heart, but it keeps on doing it anyways, and I really disapprove, I have to say. We're a good little Backstreet Boys reference here. Keanu Bourguignon. And I don't really remember what nickname it was that was given to him from Chaz. It's a long one. I'll let that stick with Chaz and be the big man here, the respectful one.
I do remember that one from the 2.4 hours of Le Mans here on Simracersworld. It was Keanu Reeves Beef Bourguignon.
Keanu Reeves Beef Brilliant indeed. He's currently 20th, another one of those drivers who's lost a fair bit of position, I'm afraid, in this race. He is now down into, he's down into 20th, but he started in 9th place. He's lost 11 places, and he did have a spin at some point, so as I said, far from optimal here. Jeremy Hessels still doing well in the Dynamics Racing 88 Ferrari to keep both the Ford GT behind him there, and that's the car of Coutinho V, and now also Keanu Bourguignon there in front is one of the year one cars, but that's lap traffic because up ahead it's just about 5 seconds up to Robin Deville, and that's of course the Flemish Sim Sports Ferrari, who's now in 17th and pitting. Martin van Rooijwijk pitting, and Alejandro Garcia de la Mata Torres is pitting as well. And don't we just love how that name just rolls off your tongue like two syllables? It's beautiful.
Everybody going into the pits at the moment. I've got lots of chopping and changing on my timing screen, so I'm not sure what's happening, whether that's my connection or not. But it looks like everybody is slowly starting to think about getting in for the pit window. We've had an incident for Adam Delmont and Austin Greater X, whether those incidents are related or not, but they were both on the lap prior. So we'll have to have a look just to see what happened to them. This is Austin Greater X. You're going to have to talk us through it.
I'm afraid that was slightly related indeed, because in behind isn't that Adam Delmont? Let's see here, indeed it is. And as they turn into sunset, a little bit of a wobble there from the Excite Racing Ford GT just catches the rear end of the 911 of Austin Greatorex, and Greatorex is then just ever so slightly hinted in to that tire barrier out there, but it's cost him a bit. It's caused some damage to the rear end of his cars and possibly his engine as well. Here is Adam Delmont going around the track very, very slowly. I have to say, maybe a little bit surprised that he didn't choose to pit in that situation, but of course it could be that it's been such an amount of time ago that he actually did just go into the pit indeed. And in that case, isn't it just the fate of commentators to be wrong most of the time? Anyways, here comes Alejandro Garcia de la Mata Torres up the inside and through on Keanu Bourguignon in the hairpin. Beautiful stuff indeed, good stuff. And they're still battling ahead here, and now comes one of the Simpac Porsches. And that's Martin van Rooijwijk now up into 16th place, and he's gonna come straight past on Bourguignon as well. I believe he's got the inside line at the next right entry. He's all the way he's squeezing up through there, and I would be afraid to go out there, Jack, on that on the other hand side of that white line there. I don't expect to find a lot of grip on the concrete, but he finds it, Van Rooijwijk, and he goes through.
Yeah, great move from Van Rooijwijk. It looks like we've had loads of people dive into the pits. So we've had Johnny Verhoef, Job de Licht, Ferris Stanley, Mario Yuri, Pim Pau, Daniel Handover, Keanu Bourguignon, Rutger Vinen, Seb Hawkins, Neil Cooper, Dries Boudry, Marc-Antoine Thibault, Nicolas Cotonivaux, John Barnes, Paul Gosling. I could go on for days. Everybody's diving into the pits. We've got to the point where I think everybody has stretched their tanks as far as they need to, and we've just hit the 34-minute mark. So we've just got less than an hour to go. So I think everybody's going to get a full tank of fuel now and see whether they can stretch it to the end of the race.
That's a good point, indeed, Jack. And just watching the pit lane exit there, and I'm afraid if we're going to keep on watching this pit lane, you're going to kill yourself trying to say all those names and just run out of breath. But keep on going, Jack. But pleasure to see that you didn't, anyways. That might have settled or unsettled the order, brought us closer to something that's a bit more reflective of what's actually going on. Although we still have the top 5 runners having yet to pit, if I'm not completely mistaken. No, I think pit count on 1 for most of the field, but this time I think David Fuller is the only car that still remains to have had his pit stop. Yeah, very much so. Most of the field there between laps 15, 16, and then the vast majority of the field. Oh, that's Diego Hames. Good stuff, Belgium. Thank you. That was BA. And I stand corrected. But as I said, most of the field pitting in on lap 17. I'm afraid we have a little bit of a microphone or mic connection issue on either our ends for me to Jack. Unless Jack can confirm that he is here with me.
Yeah,
Jack is here.
Yeah,
well, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
I just didn't want to throw you off your stride. Just wondering whether we could see the car logo on the timing tower, because it would be great to see just the spread of manufacturers from top to bottom of the order, just to see where they shape up throughout, and see who's leading. So there we go. BMW 1, 2, and 3, followed by 2 Fords. That's the 3 G-Drive Racing Exemia cars on the podium at the moment, with Manatee Racing P4 and P5, so it'd be great to see what they can do towards the end of the race. Both the Manatee cars have pitted, and the top 3 G-Drive cars, oh, you can't say that in a hurry, are still yet to pit. So it'll be good to see how their strategy plays out, and the Manatee cars are actually quite close to the G-Drive cars. So I'm not sure what has happened there, whether it's my timing screen once again playing silly buggers, and the G-Drive cars have in fact pitted. But everybody seems a little too close for comfort at the moment. Yeah,
I believe they have pitted, because I have them in as PL17 on my timing screen here, so I think it is lap 17 indeed that they've been in. But it is indeed, there's a lot of stuff happening, Jack, and so much so that even our software can't even keep up with all the action here. There's a lot of stuff happening for David Fuller, who's had his pit stop as well, I believe. That was Jack Ashton for a moment. Yes, he is in the pits. We just wanted to make sure that it wasn't stationary on track somewhere, because it wouldn't be the first time we've actually seen that type of stuff. And for the first time this race here, it's beginning to be a little bit spread out. But saying that, just half a second from Diego Hames here, who would, of course, whoever I called it was before, was a little bit wrong, and he's had some contact with someone. Look at that right front bumper, Jack.
Yeah, it looks like he's pushed someone around the corner a little bit, just a bit of bump drafting here and there. We are in America, so they are well used to that. We've just gone past the 38-minute mark. I was wondering, Hasse, whether we could get that next to the or above the timing tower, because at the moment it says we are on lap 20, which is very true. But I think with it being a timed race, it'd be good to see how long we have left. Martin van Loosnord still leading the way from Bram van Putten. G-Drive teammates within half a second of each other, so drafting off each other and saving that extra bit of fuel. Ever since the change between the two, it doesn't look like they've considered swapping around once again, but we've still got the 3 leading gold drivers, P6, P7 and P8 overall. Ferris Stanley for HM Engineering leading that trio, from Mario Yuri and in the Sim Racing Academy Porsche, followed by Pim Bao, the 4th of the G-Drive BMWs. But it looks like everybody is keeping it nice and clean. We've had Nicolas Cotonivaux lose plenty of time at the in P24, so I'm not sure what happened there. We haven't had anything pop up on the timing screen. We've had an incident for Bart Daleman as well, so I'm not sure what happened to Bart. We'll have to have a look back just to see what happened.
Nope. Here it is. Werrell, oh, it's a spinner, and I think that's in Genderbær just before Le Mans. Oh, and he almost takes out that 911 as well. Or the 911 takes out itself in fear of Werrell. I'd say that's closer to what's almost happening there. Matthias Temme has had an incident as well, and that's in the hairpin. And that's just a solo semi-spinner. Oh, that's a spin, but he doesn't do the entire pirouette. Let's see how many style points is he going to pick up on the getaway. Oh, not much, because he almost causes an incident. That Jet Ashton or one of the other Ford Silla GTs almost getting picked up in that one. And that almost got a little too exciting, I have to say. And Diego Hames is having the company of Sam Bentham there in behind. Very, very close. Oh, that's not Sam Bentham, is it? Now Diego Hames is here in the Flemish Sim Sports 911. And in behind, that is indeed Sam Bentham, and he's going into the pits. And this is not the first time he's been in, I believe. So might have been a penalty, might have been a problem for him earlier on. But he's now going to be dropping well down the order. And we're going to be looking at Johnny Verhoef and Joop de Ligt, because the two closest cars at the moment are these two Manatee Racing Ford GTs. But it dawns on me that we're probably just going to see some formational driving, fast driving nonetheless, but formational indeed, as they're just trying to keep the absolute maximum pace and trying to keep up with those three G-Drive BMWs at the head of affairs. Further down, Alejandro Garcia de la Mata Torres is also pretty close to the rear end of Martin van Rooijbeek there, and he's well in the slipstream actually. The battle behind between Diego Hames and Rutger Benen, who's lost a little bit of position as well. He's in 13th, so he's gained back a little bit of what he lost when he had his incident, but he's duly also lost a bit from starting position, hasn't he? He's actually gained 3 places in 13th, so it's not terrible at all.
Yeah, so everybody's still circulating as closely as they can. We were just looking at the Manatee teammates, and I think that really is the way of the game at the moment. If you are a teammate, much like the G-Drive drivers in P1, P2, P3, just work together, save that extra bit of fuel, and make sure you can just follow each other around the circuit. Speaking of the G-Drive cars, they've got a bit of breathing space between them now. If I put my teeth back in, Martin van Loosnoord, 1.8 seconds in the lead of Bram van Putten, and just about a second and a half behind Bram van Putten is Scott Andrews, and then there's almost a 6-second margin back to the first of the Manatee Ford GTs. So everybody's still nice and close in terms of the teammate perspective. A little bit further down the order, we've got Keanu Bourguignon under pressure or putting the pressure on Jeremy Hessels, but if these two start to lose any time, they will fall into the grasp of the Frenchman, Nicolas Cotonivaux. So everybody's still getting nice and close for comfort. And we've got to remember, 42 minutes of the race already gone, so plenty of time still to go. And I don't think the race is over, and we've still got people pitting here and there like we saw a little earlier on. So just because they've been into the pits once doesn't mean there's a possibility of a mistake. They might have underfueled, so they've either got to start focusing on saving fuel, or they've got to make a splash and dash towards the end of the race, Hasse.
And that's something you really want to avoid in a race like this. You want to be able to get your strategy on point and finish the race with as little fuel as possible. But of course, when doing so, underfueling is indeed a risk, and it wouldn't be the first time I've seen it either. But personally, I always play it safe when it is, and just try to have that extra half a lap or so of fuel. That'll also allow me to do a celebrational lap in the rare occasion that I actually pick up a win. But nonetheless, it is really something you want to avoid, and I think there is more time to be gained in not doing it in the end. So also because fueling is rather quick, so when we're talking 2 or 3 liters of fuel, it's not really a lot of time in the end. The real time lost there is really the time through the pit lane and all that. So I want to avoid, and I think the closing minutes of the race will show. And Jack, we're almost halfway through, and it's just, for me, it's flown by. I feel like we've been watching racing for 10 minutes.
I personally think that not necessarily the opposite, but I think it does feel like we've been sat here for 3/4 of an hour. It sounds like quite a while because I guess it is. We've got to forget, or we've got to remember, pardon me, that everybody has been in the car for those 45 minutes, and that really does tend to take a while if you are left in a world of your own. But you can see a four-way battle at the moment. That's Nicolas Cotonivaux in the middle of that in the Ford GT. He's chasing down Jeremy Hessels and Keanu Bourguignon. And then John Barnes for Quantum Racing is trying to do everything he can to slowly catch up to this battle. I've got to say, we haven't done it yet, but that Quantum Racing car has got to be a contender for livery of the day.
It certainly is, and I think it's not the first time we've seen any of their cars look, or one of their cars look absolutely brilliant indeed. And that transition from the almost fluorescent, yet not on that limeish terrible when yellow gets terrible. It's still tasty and nice, like a wasp kind of yellow, and I really like that bubbly black, bubbly yellow that makes the transition between the two. It's very nicely made. It's beautiful indeed.
We've got Marv Goes Racing in the chat saying 4 G-Drive cars in the top 10. Nice. Yes, they're doing an absolutely amazing job out on circuit. Bram van Putten on my timing screen. I'm not sure whether that's saying it on yours, but for some reason he's in 7th position at the moment. Scott Andrews dropping down as well, so not sure what's happened here. Whether it's just once again my timing screen not deciding what's happening. Bram van Putten, there you go, ping back up to the top. Go on.
Here's Seb Heber having a bit of a solo spinner, and that's in a place where we've seen several incidents, and I also know it's quite the easy place actually to lose it, because it's one of those corners where you're really braking in all the way to the apex, trying to get the car both slow down and turned, and when it works brilliantly. You can keep the car poised, balanced, and ready to get on the throttle, but it comes with the risk of just being too hard, too deep. If you enter a little too quickly, that rear starts stepping out, and once it does so, it's really hard to get back in the groove and get it back under control, and that's exactly what happened to Seb Heber here, I think. And he is currently in 29th position. And a bit of a lone BMW in front of 4 Fords, behind 2 Porsches and 2 Ferraris. And at the head is still BMW 1, 2, 3 with those G-Drive machines. But as you said, it's true that Scott D. Andrews, apologize, has indeed lost a bit of time. I think, is that...
I think he might have just worked his way past Jack Ashton by the looks of the livery. Jack Ashton or Cammy Sturch. But sorry about the issues I'm having on my end in terms of connection timing issues. I think both of them are interlinked, so we'll see whether we can get that fixed for the next round. And obviously, this is the GT Pro Series on Simracersworld. Simracersworld also hosts the GT Evo Series, which round 1 is taking place tomorrow night once again here at Sebring. They follow exactly the same calendar, just 1 day apart. So please make sure you check in for that, and there are still spots available. So make sure you either look at the Simracersworld social media, or you go onto the website and you'll find all the details there. So please don't hesitate to get onto that. And both of the series are streamed as well, so you get 90 minutes worth of racing, and close racing at that, and you also get a stream. So there's nothing much more you could want. But I've got to say, this race is really had a bit of everything. We've had calamities with small incidents, sort of not major incidents, but a couple of incidents where there's been slight contact involved. But we've also had some absolutely great door-to-door battles. There's no real standout for me yet, but I'm guessing going into the closing stages of the race, everybody will bunch up nice and close, and we'll get some even closer racing than we've had so far.
I think that's very good, and I think it's a really good analysis of what we've seen. It's been overall, over the board, some really good stuff, and I think it's one of the best things in racing in general. And one of the things I personally love the most is to just have the races come together at the end. We can see whether that happens or not here, of course. Some of the drivers who went quickly at the beginning of affairs, if they're going for the same set of tires for all 90 minutes, there could be time gained at the end of affairs, there at the end of a race, with trying to have maybe saved a bit of life of the tires still, and make sure that you can still keep the pace of the car, because if you have good tires and a light car with low fuel at those final 8 to 10 laps or so, you can really make a big impact and a big take a big dent out of anyone who's suffering on their tires. still
Yeah,
close. I'm sorry, I was just gonna say here, Scott DeAndrews is it's playing tricks with me there, because it seems to me that Bram van Putten has a little bit of a knack for disappearing, and it's playing tricks with the timing gaps, which is a little bit of a shame, because we're trying to bring you the hottest action on track, and then it all of a sudden it tells us that someone's close. You click on it, and they're 10 seconds behind the car in front, so that's a bit of a shame here. That's a bit of a bad exit for Dries Moody, and he's gonna have Mr. DeVille. Is he gonna be the devil? Not in this situation, because he actually drove in a very considerate fashion, not sending it into a tricky corner. That's down in Tower, I believe. Now in the section down towards Le Mans. Well, that's Gendebien first, of course, and then the section, also a little bit of a tricky one here. As you use so much of the left-hand side, and if you use too much, there is no grip, there is no turn-in, there's a big wide curve, but yet again, if you put your tires on the grass there, it spells disaster, because there's only the track's width, and then save a little bit more before you hit that concrete wall on the inside. Now into Sunset they go, and it's still Dries Moody now defending his position. That Ferrari seems to be slipping and sliding all over the place, and the Dynamics 77 Porsche is driving away in front. Up ahead here is Rutger Wijnen, who's still closely followed by Diego Hames in another 911 run by Flemish Sim Sports, and then there's Jordan McLone in 14th. And by the way, Martin van Loosenoord has taken the lead of the race. So while it hasn't really seemed to have a lot of stuff happening at the head of affairs, all of a sudden it happens, and it sneaks underneath your eyes, as it's happened here. Van Loosenoord now leading Van Putten. Still Scott DeAndrews third. They can still see each other, and it's still the two Manatee Racing GTs fourth and fifth.
I've got to say, I was expecting the leaders to swap around at some point, because it was originally Bram van Putten leading the way. It then swapped round to Martin van Loosenoord leading the way, and then I think it very briefly swapped back to Bram for a little while. And Martin van Loosenoord once again has retaken the reins and is first at the moment. Everybody's still keeping their times nice, close and consistent. 56s, 57s from top to bottom of the order. So I guess in a 90-minute race, consistency will start to creep in. It's all well and good being fast, but over, well, what is quite a lengthy amount of time, consistency will slowly creep in. And we're looking at Dries Moody in the Dynamics Racing Porsche, leading Robin de Ville in the Flemish Sim Sports Ferrari, number 77 and number 79. Both of them are Belgians, there we go. Dries Moody, a Platinum driver, coming under pressure from Robin de Ville, who is a gold driver. It's great to see that the gold drivers are mixing it in with the Platinum drivers up and down the order. Once again, my timing screen saying Martin van Loosenoord has dropped way down the order, but I'm just going to ignore it because he definitely hasn't. There we go, ping back up to the top. But it looks like the top 8, possibly even dropping down into the top 10, are very much secure at the moment. Everybody has remained in the same positions for a sizable amount of time. But there are some great mid-pack battles going on at the moment. For example, if we look at Jeremy Hessel's in 22nd overall, he's got a great little battle going on behind him. I think he's become part of it without much of a choice.
Oh, that's a good call, Jack, indeed.
Go on.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was just saying it's a real good call. We've got a good three-way scrap, and it's John Barnes for Quantum Racing and that very pretty looking Ford GT. Who's trying to maybe just have an opportunistic moment or two here and get past the car or two as they're battling away. And I'd like to have a bit of a panorama view for a second. There he goes deep into the hairpin, but might be aiming for the exit here with bits of rubber flying off, and that's of course gonna build up over the course of the race as marbles, the infamous marbles that you don't want. There's another one. This goes to show the details of what is going on in this sim as they drive around. And Jack, the Porsche 911 RSR and the Ford GT, when comparing engine notes of these two cars, it's two very different worlds, isn't it?
It really is, but it's great to see that even though they are drastically different cars in terms of the maybe the genetic makeup, the very different body shapes, and the aerodynamics will play different parts throughout. And like you say, the engine, the gearbox, and basically the full drivetrain is completely different throughout the car, but they are so closely matched. They do an absolutely amazing job to get these cars very, very close. It looks like BMW is the way to go at the moment, because we've got, like I say, the 3 G-Drive cars at the top end of the order, and then it slowly just drops into an absolute sea of Porsches and Ferraris, and then the Fords seem to be handling what they can towards the bottom of the order. For example, we've got Cammy Sturch and Adam Delmont together. Those 2 are Ford drivers. Then we've got 4 Fords just ahead of them. That's Jack Ashton, Sam Bentham, Paul Gosling, and Lee Deemer. So it'll be good to see how the cars play to different people's abilities throughout the rest of the season. And it may just be that the BMWs are strong around here, but we go to Monza next, and it could also once again be a circuit that the BMWs are quite good at, but they are quite a big old car, and they do get a bit of stick for that, so it might not be that great in terms of top speed. And we're looking at an absolutely amazing battle, Hasse, between Bod Boland and Seb Herbera.
It's indeed Seb Herbera in the BMW MM here, trying to defend from the Manxman, putting on absolute pressure, and you could see that Herbera's car was really on the limit there through Christensen, now coming down into the hairpin, and looks like he missed the apex just that little bit as well there, but he's keeping it alive. This is a long run, and it's going to require some late braking from Boland to get in there. He has a look, but it's going to be no more than that for now, at least. He's going to be licking his lips at the side of that BMW so close in front, and I think the Ferrari should be able to pick up a bit of time in the section through Gendebien and down to Le Mans onto that back straight, where being close enough to the rear, you're really able to set up a good move into Sunset. And that corner really not one where you have to go too wide too often, because it's going to spell trouble if you take your risks too much there. And it's definitely also a case of knowing when to back out, because it's dangerous indeed there. The run, though, not really happening for Bud Boland. And I think it's going to be just a bit more time behind Seb Herbera here. Up ahead now, Dries Moody, Robin DeVille, and Tom Metherell very close to one another here, coming into Christensen. And tight action, that's I'm wondering, is that Jordan McLone as well behind? It is in the Simpac 911, with chances of this developing into a 5-way scrap for what is then P15, I think. Here is Seb Hawkins in the Abruzzi Esports, number 15 Porsche 911 RSR. I'd love to get a closer look on that. I said I'd love to get a closer look on that camera, but it's not really happening. And I do apologize for these cameras that require us to bring a set of binoculars to our computer screen to get a closer look of the cars. And it shall not repeat itself. I'll put my hand on my heart. I won't put my heart on my hand, because then I won't be alive for that much longer. That's not going to be a very good position for me to be in. Anyways, it's a good battle here between these 3, 4, 5 cars at the top of the midfield. And Jack, all the way through this race so far, this top midfield battle has been an absolute peach, hasn't it?
It really has. I think this is where we're going to have to look throughout the rest of the season. It looks like Robin DeVille has got the best run coming out of there. I did think that Dries Moody didn't exactly get the best run going through the penultimate corner, heading up towards Sunset. We've now that's Tom Metherell looking up the inside. It looks like he's going to get the move done late on the brakes. He's got the preferred line, but let's see what Dries can do behind the wheel of his Porsche. He has a look to get the cutback, but it just looks like the BMW has got a slightly better run. I say that, but he's got the draft assistance going up towards turn 1, and the person that's going to be rubbing his hands together and licking his lips will be Jordan McLone just behind, because he's got the best seat in the house, and if anything goes wrong, he will be able to thread his car through the incident and pick up all 3 positions.
That is a dream position to be in. That space where you're not really too close to it. You're not really involved in the battle. And as I say that, Jordan McLeod get into a position where he's really involved in the battle. And now it's no longer a comfortable place to be in, because if they have an incident, he's going to have no time to react. And that's always one of the big dangers, especially in the opening, say, 5-10 minutes of a race when it's still very close. So we could also see in this race when we had the start, there was a couple of laps where before it really spread out, it was indeed close. And could have spelled trouble. And the field generally all around very, very good at being gentlemanly and patient and not too harsh, not too opportunistic, not wanting to make too many gains. Because it is an old saying in racing that the race is never lost but often... Oh, the other way around. It's never won but often lost on lap 1. It would have been beautiful me to just go through with that one, but hey. Still Robin DeVille here trying to break away. Tom Methrel has gotten the better of Dries Moody there, and we're gonna have another look at that. Whoop, here it comes. Oh, that was of course on the inside into Sunset, and he did get over with that one. We're just gonna have another look at it because it's a textbook move of how to go through there with no real danger to anyone. And that's how you want to race here. As we're deja vu a lap later, and he's still in front. And Jordan McLeod is now going to be trying to get a run on Dries Moody.
We have got Diego Hames in the pits. We saw that out of the bottom of the shot. There we go. The Flemish Sim Sports Porsche coming into the pits just past the 1 hour mark. So still got 30 minutes of the race remaining. 30 laps completed by the leaders. So we'll see how many we get done. I'm assuming it'll be around 40 to or 45 to 46 laps towards the end of the race. And it doesn't sound like much, but that is 90 minutes of hard, fast racing throughout. This is a great little battle between Rutger Weinen in the Manatee Racing BMW, very, very shortly followed by Alejandro Torres in the Zenith Racing Ferrari. And this is going to come back to it again. It's great to see different manufacturers intertwining with each other, and you almost see a pattern when you look at the timing at the timing screens. Of which, speaking of the timing screens, I've been making sure I've been putting the live timing link into the YouTube chat all night, so you can keep up with what's happening, not just with the stream, but also with the live timing. You get a slightly more in-depth look with what's going on in terms of laps completed, the gap, the interval, the best lap, the last lap, different sector times, everything like that. A great piece of kit, so please make sure you check that out as well throughout the race. Still got plenty of time to do so with 30 minutes of the race remaining. What are your sort of predictions, Hasse, for where this race is going to end up?
I think at the top of affairs it's going to be hard to see anything here. Oh, Joop de Ligt and Johnny Verhoeven coming into the pits at this point, both of them, for what to me looks like a second pit stop. And with half an hour of racing to go, I think that is a proper surprise if ever I've seen one. This was just asking me what my expectations are. This certainly wasn't it. That is very, very sure indeed. They're going to be dropping quite a bit of way down the order here. They're going to be exiting out of the top 10 or just about within it here. Verhoeven, who's going to be in 9th, no 10th indeed, so just about within the top 10, both of them. But still, I think that that's a bit of a surprise to me now. The 3G drive cars in a very, very good position, and Pimbao, I think, is having the company now of Daniel Handover, who's up into 7th place, who's gained 4 places since the start of the race. And he has driven a really good one so far. But of course, same goes for Pimbao, who's also really been putting down the hammer. And he's gained a lot of places as well. He's gained 8 positions. Really one of the high rollers, so to say. Marc-Antoine Thibault, the Canadian, in 13th place. He's gained 11 positions as well. So a couple of drivers really having moved far and about from starting positions. Jeremy Hessel's 20th overall, 14 positions gained. So mightn't have been the fastest qualifier there, Jeremy, but he's certainly proven that his racecraft has been undeniable.
Yeah, I think it's great to see that the Manatee guys have come into the pits, because that's just going to add to the suspense towards the end of the race. We did say that strategy could be somewhere where the race is won or lost, and looking at the timing screens, Manatee Racing at the moment are P9, P10 and P11, two of which are
Oh, and here goes McLaren.
Ford.
I'm sorry.
Udry. Oh, now go on.
No, it's just no, it's just McLaren passing just as we hopped onto it, and that's basically just Dries Moody missing the apex, opening the space. And you know what that looks like to me, Jack? That looks like very worn tires on that Dynamics liner.
Yeah, it does look like the circuit is getting hot, and obviously I'm hoping, Hasse, we can bring the weather up for everybody, just to see what the temperatures are doing. Still got more cars going into the pits. That's Robin Deville and Keanu Bourguignon going into the pits, as well as Alejandro Torres has come into the pits as well. It looks like Daniel Handover is still very, very close to the tail end of Pim Bao. But going back to the Manatee guys, they've thrown their hat in the ring, and they're going to pick up lots more positions now with everybody going into the pits. Actually, no, I think that's just my timing screen. Once again, losing the G-Drive Racing Exemia drivers throughout the order. But whether they're just going for a half an hour worth of fuel and then coming into the pits towards the end of the hour for their second pit stop, so they can go out fighting. And looking at the lap times, I don't think they've completed a lap since they've come out of the pits, but it'd be interesting to see just how they shape up compared to everybody else's lap times. At the moment, the average lap time in the top 10 is around a 1:57 throughout, and if they can be in the 1:55, I still don't think they'll make up all the time they've lost. So whether this is a learning curve for them, or they're just testing various different strategies up and down the order, we're now looking at Martin van der Ewijk for Team Simpact, who is starting to come under pressure from the Manatee Racing cars. He opted a lick behind, followed by his teammate Johnny Verhoeven.
Indeed it is. We were on board with a shot of that rear wing. That's a little bit untraditional for a gearbox to be placed in front of the rear wing like that, but I think that's a bit of a camera pack of mine, just specifically for the Porsche 911, because I'm racing it. That's been messing around a bit with this, so that's good to know. But indeed, oh, and Martin van Rooijbeek, another one to pit again. So certainly it seems like a lot of drivers are going to be going for a two-stop. And track temperatures at the moment, as we saw, had the weather up for a moment just before, and it's 27 degrees at the moment. So it's not because it's terribly hot. I'd be surprised to see that they're really actually forced to go this long to do two-stoppers. But are we going to be seeing anyone else on that type of strategy, or what? Martin van Rooijbeek is going to be losing quite a lot of time here, but of course if everybody else does the same, he might be gaining on it in the end, especially if he keeps clear track around him here. Pim Bao, who's now behind Mario Ruri by 14.8 seconds, so a good cushion there for the Austrian ahead. Daniel Handover still where he was when we last had a look with him, and he's right on the tail, though not really in a position to get close enough to the BMW of Pim Bao to really have a go at him. And Dries Moody is also, I think, trying to keep up with Jordan McLone at the moment. It seems to me that he might just have lost a bit of impetus there on his corner exit of the hairpin. Oh, I'm sorry, coming down towards the hairpin, that is, of course.
Just looking a little further up through the order, we've just had Ferris Stanley dive into the pit lane, so the Monegasque, the current gold class leader for HM Engineering, has come into the pits, as well as Mario Yuri. We'll see what Pim Bao does. I don't think he's going to dive into the pits this time by. We'll keep an eye on him though.
Oh, and you
Bram
know,
van Putten is
Bram van Putten's... I'm sorry, but just saying, Bram van Putten was just in again, so it does seem actually that we've been caught napping maybe a little bit strategy-wise here, and perhaps it is just a two-stop that is the quickest here. And I'll tell you what, Jack, surely the drivers must know better than we do in here.
I think what is quite interesting though is just before this session. You're looking at Bram van Putten trying to work his way past a little bit of traffic. It looks like a Fury Sim Sport car. But what is quite interesting is the practice session before this race was 1 hour 10 minutes, and we're not at that margin. So they could have used that as a practice race just to see which way was quicker. And obviously in that 1 hour 10 minutes, you can two-stop it, because that's exactly what they've done now. So I think that could have been the turning point as well, on top of all the other time everybody's put into practice, because I'm always lucky on the iRacing hosted sessions, and there tends to be a couple of sessions a week if everybody just throwing one up for people to join, and they're definitely making the most of it, and it's paying off, because it looks like everybody is on a very similar strategy. But at the moment, the only person only to take one stop towards the top end of the order is Daniel Handover for Demon Tweaks Esports, and he is currently in 3rd position.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to correct you on that. He's 4th. He's still behind Scott D. Andrews by 9.5 seconds or so. But he has indeed been a real high mover. And it's been really good to see Daniel Handover with such a run. And you have to think, if he's one of the few drivers and an actual one-stopper here, the thing is that one-stopping here might just require you to save too much fuel to actually make sense. So, and that is of course the 60% fuel load limit that's really showing its tricky hand, and the drivers are being forced to stop twice for this one. We were expecting one stop, but when thinking about it, actually just doing a bit of a quick head maths, it does make sense to me that it would hardly even be possible. It would be insane levels of fuel saving, and of course that wouldn't be fast in any way. And as a result of all this, we were being amazed about it. I don't think Joop de Leek or Johnny Verhoeven has been so, because they're back in 4th and 5th place.
One thing I have just remembered, because from my preparation, I was looking, they've got a 60% fuel load allowance, so that will be the point where normally I was expecting you can get about an hour out of a full tank, but they don't have a fuel tank. They only have 60% available. That's Daniel Handover throwing it up the inside of a bit of traffic, and he is currently now in P8. So the overtake on Pim Bao has been made in the pits. So Daniel Handover now in P8, overall P6 in class. The next targets are 17 seconds up the road. That is Mario Yuri and Ferris Stanley. So the Austrian and the Monegasque. There is Ferris Stanley, and the leader currently of the gold class, really driving far and away from his closest competitor. There we go, 13 seconds ahead of him, and then 14 seconds behind Mario Yuri is Daniel Handover.
And there is a bit of a gap there, Daniel. Oh, that's of course Mario Yuri also trying to make his way through on the lap traffic that's starting to appear now. We're into the final 20 minutes of racing. Actually, we're into the final 19 minutes of racing, to be more precise. And Mario Yuri, this is actually the lead battle. Well, not these two cars, but the battle between Ferris Stanley, we were watching a moment ago in the Ferrari, the Monegasque here, and Mario Yuri, the Austrian. And who's that? Who's been off that? That's Jeremy Hessels in the Dynamics car. And we're just going to bring up Hessels. And I spoke about that grass on the outside of that curb earlier on. And you know what? He does indeed, I think, just about keep it out of the wall. We're just going to have another look here. On board we go here, roll our view from the Ferrari, and yes, he does a lot of luck on the steering wheel. Oh, that was the sound of carbon fiber meeting concrete. Not a good sound for Jeremy Hessels, because that spells a little bit of damage, I think, to his right front that might be slowing him down for the rest of the race, and he now finds himself in 34th position. But mind you, I think Jeremy Hessels has 2 pit stops. And I think a lot of the drivers around him has not, or at least a couple of the drivers in front of him has not yet. So a bit of a position still to be gained for Jeremy. Although I think by now, Sam Bentham coming in here to the pits, I think by now we're getting close to having the entire field been in for that second pit stop as well. And excuse me, by the way, for my creaky chair. I will have made a setup that will be based on my couch for the next race, but I didn't get around to doing it again, and then all of a sudden it occurred to me, oh no, squeaky chair is still around, and I've been trying to sit still, like very still, But at some point it gets difficult because I just need to move a little bit, and I do so. So
I don't think you've got a choice, but to be fair, you'd be very, very nerve-wracking if you left, because I've got so much action to keep on top of. And now looking at Jordan McLeod slowly starting to fall foul of Dries Moody behind. Half a tenth, or half a second, sorry, separating those two. Just a little further up the road is Alejandro Garcia de la Mata Torres. I'm never going to get that right. He is very, very well, he's doing a great job of carving his way up through the order, but if he loses too much time to the Fury Simsport car, well, in his rear bumper, he's going to end up in the grasp of Marc-Antoine Thibault, which is just behind this little battle that we're looking at for a Britsy Esports. But he is preoccupied with Rutger Weinen. There is Rutger Weinen just behind. So you can see there's lots of intertwining happening, whether it be for position or not. Everybody's got to be so careful about where they place their car and not losing too much time.
Yeah, indeed, and that's always one of the big trade-offs. Is, you know, how aggressive are you going to be, but you don't want to get caught up, but you don't want to get in danger. And here comes a big squeeze there. And Rutger Weinen certainly wants to find a way through on Marc-Antoine Thibault. The Canadian squeezed out a little bit wide, but is looking for the cutback here on the final part of Sunset, and that is very much a possibility. He gets a very good run, and down towards the start-finish line with Rutger Weinen insisting on holding the inside line. Thibault, though, with a nice shot, actually, of the outside overtake here, but it's not going to be, I think. Rutger Weinen takes and keeps that position. And let's have another look at that, Jack. Good move indeed, isn't it?
Yeah, great job from Rutger Weinen, throwing it up the inside, and he did a great job as well of making sure he kept to that inside line. Wasn't going to show him any vulnerability, and round the outside of turn one probably isn't the brightest idea in a Ferrari. Yes, it handles slightly better than the BMW, but it won't have the momentum coming out of the corner. We're right on board now. He has a look, but backs out of the move very sensibly, and then going up towards turn two, the move isn't on. Porsche Sport saying, I love saying Alejandro. I mean, it's just good. The complicated names, I'm really intrigued with complicated names, and I'm sort of determined to make sure I get them right. 9 times out of 10, I probably won't. But yeah, I'm just intrigued of getting these complicated names right. We're looking at Bart Delman once again losing the tail end of his Ferrari. And that's the 3rd time it's happened today in sort of a major...
Oh, that was set... was that the race leaders in the G-Drive BMWs? That could have been, I think, actually, that almost got hit there before. Oh, and he's just touched him on the outside. I want to just see there. Look at this. On board we go with Martin van Loosnoord, and what does he see as he comes around? Oh! And even knowing that was gonna happen, still had my heart up my throat. We are multinational, multifunctional people indeed, Marv. Good to have you along, mate. Always a pleasure. By the way, and that goes to all of you out there. It's such a pleasure to have all of you watching along with interest, and all of the interested discussion that's going on in track there and in chat, as someone had a bit of a moment there on the outside, and that was not Joop de Ligt. And Joop de Ligt, who was in 5th place, I think he still is, and he's had a bit of a moment there, breaking too deep into the hairpin. And he's out buttonizing in his Ford GT. Doesn't do it for too long. Hopefully doesn't pick up any of those cones. No, they're shoved to the side, aren't they? Or is that a cone on his car? Oh, that is I mean, still for a moment there, but if we could just get a bit of a... No, that isn't. That is just a red banner. I thought that was a cone for a moment there. It would have been absolutely insane, actually.
Slightly loose as well, so maybe that was just the pickup from going across the grass. But it looks like he's got back onto pace now. We're now looking at Scott Andrews. I think we're still on a replay, Hasse.
Yeah, well, we just went back because I just went to a replay of Scott D. Andrews. I just had a message that he passed Bram van Putten, and then we went back on. That might have been the software just playing tricks. I just wanted to say that if we had overtakes between those podium places, I wanted to make sure not to miss it. And we do need, indeed, Red Eagle. We do need some sort of binoculars to really get up close to the action here. As I mentioned earlier, we will be sure to get such camera inconsistencies fixed for any future events. Here's Dries Moody. He's still on the tail of Jordan McClone. He's followed by Martin van Rooijwijk now. It's the battle for 15th place. 15th, 16th, and 17th. And he's in, well, it's 3 Porsche 911 RSRs. But it's a Simpack sandwich. And, well, like Michael McDonald, he's going to be sure not to get blinded by the lights and colors of those Simpack cars, aren't he, Joe?
I see what you did there. You said it into Chaz with all your little references here and there, but he'll be trying not to do so. Jordan McClone, he's gained 5 positions from where he started, but I really thought he was top 10 material. We've still got 10 minutes of the race to go, so a lot can change, but I was expecting him a little higher up the order. I'm just looking at the Manatee cars. Johnny Verhoef, he is now in 4th position. We had an incident for Austin Greatorex has just popped up. We haven't seen him much throughout the stream at all, so it'll be good to see what happened to him for Strasser Motorsport. We'll see whether we can get a replay of that incident. It was done on the lap prior. Let's hope it's nothing serious.
Oh yeah, let's have a look at that. Indeed, and here we should see a look at what has happened. Austin Greatorex, that looks rather strange to me. That looks like hardware failure or something to me. Oh, and if it is, he's back to the pits. And he hasn't really started running again, so he just came to a stop and that was it. Car going straight. It does turn at some point. I have to say that I am at a bit of a loss as to what exactly happened right there. Here is Daniel Handover. He is for once in his life not lonely, or he is actually lonely, but that's not how the song lyrics go, so the reference kind of fell apart for me there. One that is not lonely is indeed Dries Moody. He's had this company of the Simpack 911s, and both him and Van Rooijwijk now starting to gain on Jordan McClone, who seems to have lost a little bit of pace on the last couple of laps here, and is now he's coming under pressure and falling into the clutches of the Belgian behind the Dutchman. He is Van Rooijwijk. And then behind these is Tom Methrel in the BMW M8, who also looks interested and keen on joining the party here. And indeed, Marv, they're dead to you, and indeed they're dead to me as well. With that out of the way, we shall speak of it no more.
Saying that, we will have to, because tomorrow for the GT Evo series, we will try and get that fixed for you, of course.
Until we turn off the stream, we will speak of this no more.
Right, there we go. I can agree with you on that one. But the trio that we're looking at the moment of Jordan McClone, Dries Moody, and Martin van Rooijwijk are still nose to tail. But like you said, Tom Methrel for Meraki Racing is just behind. And if these three keep on battling at the rate they are, it won't be long until Tom Methrel catches up. 1.1 seconds away now, so he's getting very, very close. If we look back from Martin van Rooijwijk, I'm sure we'll get a great view just to see how close he was at the start of the lap. He was 1.7 seconds away. Look how close he is on the brakes. Really, really close. He's now breaking himself onto the grass. Commentator's curse. Onto the grass. Couldn't really slow down this time. And all that time he gained has all dissipated. He's lost out to Keanu Bourguignon. He's lost out to Robin DeVille, and he's gonna be very, very close to his Meraki Racing teammate of Ewan Marshall.
You know, I actually thought we did have Tom Methrel. There it is, with focus on Tom instead of Martin, as I wanted it to. Oh, and he just overshoots it, and that's a beautiful tree indeed. And that's not what we wanted to see, and I think he actually took a bit of time getting back, because that you can see was both Keanu Bourguignon and Robin DeVille. Both of the Flemish Sim Sports cars got passed on him, and he's now got Ewan Marshall, his teammate, if I'm not very much mistaken, there in the other. That's a Meraki Racing 911, who in turn has the company of Neil Cooper and Nicolas Cotoniovi behind John Barnes and then Sam Bentham. And that's the end of the top 25, you could say so. And at the head of affairs, it's still Martin van Loosnoord, Bram van Putten, Scott D. Andrews, Johnny Verhoef, Ferris Stanley now, after that little bit of an incident there from Joop de Ligt. So Ferris Stanley, the top running gold driver, now getting in between the Manatee Ford GTs at the head of affairs. And then Mario, Yuri, Daniel Handover, Pimpao, and Alejandro Garcia de la Mata Torres. It's not only Jack who likes to say it, I like to say it too. But he's in 10th place. And to be fair, Jack, the Senate esports driver, has driven a brilliant race so far.
He's done a great job and he's done everything he has to. We did just see Ewan Marshall for Meraki Racing get up the inside of Neil Cooper. So he's just about got the position secured though. But while that's happened, well, speaking of Ewan Marshall, actually, he's still just ahead. But look how close Nicolas Cotoniveau is. Very, very sideways. Well, almost very, very sideways moment. And there's not much you can do about it there because the track cuts back in on you as soon as you get to the hairpin. But Neil Cooper doing everything he can to stick on with Ewan Marshall. He has a look to the inside, can't quite get the move done. That was very brave. Personally, I thought he was going to get up the inside, but look how much time he's lost just by having a look and not being able to pull the move off. He's slowly falling foul of the Galactics Motorsport 4 GT behind, and this is going to evolve into a great last couple of laps battle because we've only got about 6 minutes remaining.
Indeed, it's really this, and I feel like 5 minutes ago we were speaking about the 1 hour mark. It's now 1 hour and 25 minutes almost in on the clock, and we are indeed coming towards the spiciest events, the final 5 minutes of racing where it does all get decided. And you mightn't be able to win the race on lap 1, but you really can win the race on the final lap, so expect to see the action really heat up here. I believe we have a bit of a battle here between Rutger Weinen and Marc-Antoine Thibault, and this one has been brewing for quite a while as well. This is a Manatee Racing BMW M8 in 11th place against the Canadian Ferrari of the Abruzzi Esports team, of course, in 12th. Who's right on the tail, and just behind these is Diego Hames, who I believe to be the top-running Flemish SimSports driver. He's in 13th place in front of Sebastian Hawkins, Jordan Malone, and there's a bit of switching going on here with the... Oh, that's just the... I'm sorry. No, false alert, and we're going to go right back to the battle before. They're still separated by just half a second. And you know what? In front of these, I think it's also just heating up. Or is that lap traffic? That could be traffic. Or it could be a battle down the order. Actually, I think that might be the battle between Ewan Marshall and Neil Cooper there ahead. Oh, it
did look like it. There we go. Still nice and close between that trio. Someone we haven't seen much of is Ferris Stanley, the Monegasque. For H Engineering, he's just got up to P5. On my overlay, it's saying, no, what's happening here? I've managed to lose him somewhere. Well, sorry, Ferris, but I've lost you somewhere. There we go. He's up to P5 now. So P5 overall, and he is the leading gold class driver, and he is very, very close to Johnny Verhoef for Manatee Racing. At the moment, he is the HM Engineering meet of a Manatee sandwich. So he's slowly starting to work his way up the order. We haven't seen much of him, but he's doing an absolutely amazing job. The podium for the gold class, I would say, is still yet undecided because we've got Mario Yuri behind in P2, Pimpao in P3, and Seb Hawkins, someone we've seen a fair bit of, has actually done a bit of an under-the-radar performance and he's working his way up. But the gap, I think, is just a little too big for him to get past Alejandro Torres and work his way up towards Pimpao. But we've still got battles up and down the order. Neil Cooper is very, very close to Nicolas Cotoniveau, still doing everything he can to defend that position. And obviously we've got the Team Simpact cars just ahead, but look at this, Neil Cooper had a slightly sideways moment going through Sunset, going onto the start-finish straight. What do you think is going to happen this lap, Hasse?
I think it's going to be sensing out where the opportunity might lie for the Fury driver here, Neil Cooper, in the number 3 car. Because he still has a few more laps to make the move, and now's the time to really sense out where the opposition is weak. Is there anywhere where you're noticeably different or noticeably faster? Maybe have a better line here through Christensen 4 and 5. He seems to be very close. And, well, of course, if he's close enough here, coming down the hairpin here, and as Ewan Marshall going very defensive into the hairpin. Neil Cooper's going to have the opportunity. He's going to try to go for the cutback, but you know what? He goes wide. And I was just about to say he opened himself for an attack from Nicolas Cotoniveau behind, but it didn't happen here, though the Ford GT got a much better exit. And I'm just going to go up with the battle here quickly now between the two Simpacts. And now Sebastian Hawkins in the Abruzzi car. I think he has gotten past on Jordan McClone in that battle for 14th place.
He has indeed. He's now leading both the Team Simpax cars, but the teammates are hopefully going to start working together and seeing whether we can get a last lap battle for that position back. It's for P14 overall. The only class battle between that trio is between the Team Simpax cars, and I'm guessing towards the end of the race, maybe on the last lap, all team orders are off the cards and they're going to go tooth and nail to get the position. This is Marc-Antoine Thibault, still just in between Diego James and Rutger Weinen. Nothing much he can do at this point in the race. Half a second behind Rutger Weinen for Manatee Racing, but I'm not sure the position will present itself very shortly, and I'm guessing we've only got about one lap.
I think you're right there, Jack. A lap or two. That depends on where Martin van Loosenhoorn and the other leaders are at the moment, and just when they will be presented with the white flag. And we're certainly going to have, I think, I'm sorry, yeah, I think you fell out there, Jack. But you were saying how many laps are going to be left. I think it's going to be another one, and that might just be it, because Martin van Loosenhoorn now coming into Christensen here.
Yeah, just one lap remaining by the looks, but he crossed the line with only about 1 minute 20 remaining, and we all know that it is around a 2-minute lap, so this is the last lap of the race. Martin van Loosenhoorn leading the way for G-Drive Racing Exemia, followed by his teammate Bram van Putten, also for G-Drive Racing Exemia, and to round out the podium at the moment is Scott Andrews, another G-Drive Racing Exemia driver, in the third of the BMWs. We've then got the two Manatee Racing Fords, but we're now looking at Jordan McGlone with a very, very late last lap charge on Seb Hawkins, seeing what he can do, and he's closer than ever now, 1.5 tenths behind. You can just see how close he is, almost under the rear wing, going onto this final back straight. Hasse, what do you think is going to happen?
I think he's going to attack, and I think he's going to see if he can line it up onto the back straight through Le Mans. Here it is. Oh, and that's Hawkins, and he gets a very, very, very narrow line through there, and I think he's going to be cannon fodder now for Jordan McGlone, but at the same time, I think it's going to be Oh, there is another lap. We have not gotten the checkered flag out, so I believe this is the final lap. We've had another lap. I think he just crossed the line, because indeed, no, I'm sorry, I mistook where Martin van Loosenhoorn was on the track. I mistook the section coming into Le Mans for section 1.
We've had an incident for Seb Hawkins and Jordan McGlone, so that battle we were just looking at. We will have to have a look back at that in a moment. We really don't want to miss the leaders crossing the line, but we'll just have a quick look going through the final corner. That's very sideways for Seb Hawkins. Into the wall,
that's
very
Jordan
hard.
McGlone. He lost it all by his own up ahead there, I think.
Let's have a look at the leader.
The leader, indeed it is. And just as he crosses the line, we make it to him. Martin van Loosenhoorn takes the win for a G-Drive 1, 2, 3 in front of teammates. Bram van Putten, Scott D. Andrews gets third. Brilliant drive in the end. Opening round. What a win there. Manatee Racing is going to get fourth. And it's going to be Ferris Stanley, the gold winner. And you know what? He's right on the tail of the Ford GT. Ferris Stanley, the Monegasque, a brilliant race he's driven to take the class win for the golds. And very, very, very good drive from him as well. Joop de Ligt gets 6th place. It's going to get Mario Jury 7th overall, 2nd in class. Then Daniel Handover is going to be 8th overall. That's 6th in the platinum class, and then Pimpao 9th overall class podium. Rounding off the top 10 is one of our favorite names, if not drivers on the list of names here. It's Alejandro Garcia de la Mata Torres, who's now completing his race. Still might be a bit of a battle on his hands here. It's the gap up. This is of course lap traffic, and this is not any Pimpao here.
Okay, so Daniel Handover just crossed the line. Pimpao is going to cross the line now. And then the next car to cross the line will be the person we're looking at the moment. That's Alejandro Torres going through the final corner. He's done a great job, gained 5 positions from where he started through Sunset for the final time, and rounding out the top 10, it's the Zenith Esports driver. Just looking a little bit further back is Rutger Weinen. He's crossed the line now, and then Marc-Antoine Thibault for Abruzzi Esports gained 12 positions, finished 12th overall and 9th in class. So a great job from the Canadian driver. And Diego James has crossed the line as well. Same with Martin van Rijwijk, where the lead Team Simpax racing driver after all of that kicked off towards the end of the race. Then Dries Moudry for Dynamics Racing, Keanu Bourguignon, Seb Hawkins and Jordan McGlone. Will give you a slightly better run through the results as soon as we get them. And a bit more in depth, we'll just have a look back at that incident. That was Jordan McClone, very, very sideways into the wall. Or that was, sorry, Seb Hawkins, very sideways into the wall. No, it wasn't Seb Hawkins. You'll have to correct me here, Hasse. Somebody went very sideways into the wall. And
Seb Hawkins went into the wall, indeed, and then Jordan McClone almost went into the wall as well. But they had an incident at a place where you'd expect cars to touch when you have an incident, and they didn't have an incident. So that's pretty impressive indeed. And
Jordan McClone, because it looks like his car just stepped out on him on one of the many bumps around here.
Indeed it is. I think, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna go to race results, and I'm gonna hand you over to the brilliant Jack Werrell for the readout.
So Martin van Leeuwenhoek takes the round 1 win here at Suzuka for season 7 of the Simracersworld GT Pro Series, 3 seconds ahead of his G Drive Racing teammate. You can see it was a G Drive full podium, so a great job from all those guys. So Bram van Putten crossed the line in P2, followed by Scott Andrews. That rounds out your podium. Then we get to Johnny Verhoef, the Manatee Racing driver, 30 seconds down on the leader. Then the leading and the eventual winner of the gold class, Ferry Stanley, crossed the line P5 overall. So great drive from the Monegasque. Joop de Ligt, P6. Mario Yuri, P2 in class, P7 overall. Daniel Handover in P8. Then rounding out the podium for the gold class is Pim Bouw, P9 overall. Alejandro Torres, P10. Rutger Wijnen, 11th. Marc-Antoine Thibault, P12. Diego Hames crossed the line in P13, followed by Martin van Rijwijk, Dries Moudry, Keanu Bourgagnon, Sebastian Hawkins, Jordan McClone, and we'll have a look down just to see what else or who else we've got.
Indeed we will, and here it is.
There we go. So Robin DeVille crossed the line in P19. Tom Metherell 20th. Ewan Marshall, so the two Meraki cars crossed the line together in P21. Neil Cooper in 22nd. Nicolas Cotin-Niveau in P23. John Barnes in 24th, Sam Bentham P25, Carl Sharkey, someone we didn't see much of, across the line in P26, followed by Seb Herbert, David Fuller, Bob Boland, Jack Ashton, Paul Gosling, Javier Rodriguez, Jeremy Hessels, Lee Diemer, Cami Sturge, Matthias Deme, Adam Delmont, and Austin Greatorex, I believe, rounds out who we had finish. Then we get to Bart Dale. No, Bart Daleman finished as well. He crossed the line in P39 for Simracersworld Esports. And then I think this is where we get to the retirements of Ryan Walker, Dean Timms, Kevin Boland, and Nicholas Last, losing out very, very early on in the race due to connection issues. But that was a very, very crazy race. And it's not the only one we've got this week. Tomorrow night at exactly the same time, we've got the Simracersworld GT Evo Series, round 1, also here at Sebring. And that's going to be a busy old night, Hasse.
Yeah, it certainly is, and it's going to be hopefully as good as it's been tonight here on the racing front. I'm sure it's going to be as good as tonight on the broadcasting front with yourself and the brilliant Peter Mackay on comms there. And one thing I just sadly want to point out is to see Niklas Last in last. God, that hurts my heart. But we've had some amazing racing here tonight. It's been really, really good. It's been close throughout the field. It's just shown just how much we can expect from this series to come over the next coming months. Actually, it's going to be a really good show, and I think this was even more so than the media day, the perfect appetizer to go on to the next part of the series. I, for one, am really excited about 2 weeks' time. Monza is going to be great, and speaking about something that it is indeed going to be great, is when we're going to be able to go to the interviews.
Yes, so the first man we're going to get in the box is going to be Seb Herbert himself. Crossed the line in 27th position, only 1 lap down. There was lots of people 1 lap down, and it looked like you were having some great battles, Seb. So just talk us through that race. How do you find it?
It was great. From my position, it was excellent. I saw no big pileup in the start. I hope there wasn't one, but I didn't see one. That was excellent. And then I was able to run with the guys in around P20 until I unfortunately spun. And yeah, after that I was around P30 and managed to get back up to 27 in the end, I think.
Well, you only lost 4 positions, so you were doing something right at carving your way back up through the order. So a great recovery drive nonetheless. And we did see you a couple of times. You were having quite a close battle with a few of the other drivers, and it looked like you fell foul of the curb or some of the high curbs here at Sebring a couple of times. Was that something that you did once and never did again, or is it just one of them things you maybe turn in that fraction of a second too late and it just catches you out in a big way?
Well, I had one situation where I had one particular aggressive driver behind me. I won't name names. And he stuck his nose in there, and I tried to avoid him and made contact with the curb, but I think I didn't damage my car, so no harm done there. Yeah, but other than that, the curbs were alright for me.
And surely the one thing that is in the back of your mind is that it was a G Drive and BMW podium, like a full-out podium. And then the next, the BMW down the order is in P9, also a G Drive BMW. And then I think it's almost dropped back down to you. Is that something you sort of have a bit of pride in, knowing that the BMW has got the pace within itself, and then as long as you put all the pieces together, it's going to look like a fruitful season for you?
Oh well, I know that I'm not a podium driver. I'm pretty proud of the pace that I have. I'm not the fastest guy out there, I know that, but it's all right. I can hold my own in the midfield.
Let's say for you, go on.
Yeah, and I like the BMW. It suits my style, so I didn't pay any attention to what the BOP says or what the strong point is. And obviously, the BMW isn't a weak car. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a BMW podium knockout.
Well, I'm really hoping that your wishes do come true and you do get a couple of podiums. And you never know, we could see you on the very top step throughout the rest of the season. But Hasse, have you got anything to add?
No, I just want to say great race and great to see you on track, and it was some good battles, and yeah, I'm just stoked about the race in general, and I think your interview was very filling, Jack, so nothing to add from me except for that.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for joining us in the box, but before we do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yeah, of course. I want to shout out all the drivers who are racing in our good league. It was a lot of work behind the scenes over the last few weeks. Ian and me, we put in a lot of work, and it's great to see that you are having a good time out there. It's very rewarding, and I hope we will have a really good season. And thanks to you two guys for the broadcast. You're doing a great job. And of course, thanks to Ian, because he's helping me making this possible in a way that no one else could help me. He's doing a really great job, a lot of work, and it's awesome. Brilliant. So thanks you guys, thanks to all the drivers, thanks to Ian, and have a good evening.
Thank you very much, you too.
And with that, I think it's also about time to conclude our broadcast of this amazing opening round of racing from the Simracersworld GT Pro Series here from Sebring in Florida. And of course, thanks to all of you for tuning in with us, for watching along for this exciting racing we've been had. A big thank you to our sponsors. That goes for Porsche Sport, that goes for Strasse, that goes for Abruzzi, and for Dynamics Racing Simulators. Thank you so much for making this possible. And of course, for all of you, have you liked what you have seen here? Do leave us a like. And if you want to see more, you know where the subscribe button is, and do hit the bell icon as well to stay notified of when we go live. And speaking of going live, same time, same place tomorrow for the GT Evo series, brought to you by the same sponsors and the lovely Jack Werrell and the knowing Peter Mackay. We'll be back this weekend as well with a good day of racing on Sunday. And then, of course, join the Simracersworld TV Discord if you want to see a more fulfilling schedule of when we have action here on the channel. From me, Hasse Rømer, from Jack Werrell in the box, it's been a great, great pleasure indeed. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, take care, have fun, bye-bye.